Hi.
It's time for Blumpkin and Friends, starring your host, the Reverend Johnny Blumpkin.
I think they said something about, like, a podcast or whatever. I don't know.
Hey kids, I'm the Reverend Johnny Blumpkin, and with me today is my friend...
Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits, fart, turd, and twat, Graeme, formerly of ITRadio.
Yeah, so kiddies, this is a treat. This is a role reversal. We've got Mr. ITRadio on my show, as opposed to Blumpkin started out on his show.
I now live in his basement.
That's not true. It's my basement's legally uninhabitable due to the fact I don't have any egress.
But you've got a toilet
windows.
seat right there.
I do have a toilet seat, but
the toilet's out there, outside.
Yeah, there's the old toilet out next to the shed that may become a plant. I don't fucking know. What do you do with an old toilet besides find somebody with a truck in a late night road to just throw it over the side of the truck and smash it?
Or hope that you can find, well, where you live, there should be enough open dumpsters, maybe.
There's a couple construction dumpsters, but you don't just pick that up by yourself.
No.
And Lou Ferrigno it over your fucking head and toss it in.
Even with all that weightlifting equipment in the other room, yeah, I don't think you can pull it off.
Right.
Come on,
so,
you can shot puck it.
One-handed?
Yeah.
Just an entire fucking porcelain toilet?
Exactly.
I think I might end up with a torn rotator cuff if that's the case.
Or a tornado somehow.
So, how many years did you do ITRadio?
Technically, we did it for 5. Started in 2005. 2008, we did the Vegas convention for the New Media Podcast Expo. 2010-ish was when I started dying it out. That's when Graeme and the Brain showed up, and Frosty would show up every once in a while after he said, hey, yeah, I'm going to quit. And then he came back, and then, yeah. As everybody has said, I was tenacious with that show. It should have died years ago, but it went from music like jazz band out of school to pro wrestling, then to podcasting, and then for the last 6 years now, since ITRadio has been done, I sit at home doing jack shit.
Very productive. Well, not jack shit. You work on music.
Barely.
I'm trying to throw you a ball.
I know
here.
you are. I will be the first one to admit, yeah, I work on music, and then it just doesn't happen. I can go through my folders. It's like, yeah, you've got 100 songs in the Ableton Live 8 folder. Yeah. And they're all like 5 seconds long. Well, here's an idea, and then I'd get bored with it and go to the next one.
Jesus.
The other issue is hitting save.
Oops.
No, it's a matter of not liking it and not hitting save and then just forgetting about it.
Oh, you know what might help you out? A bottle of amphetamine salts and a week's vacation.
Yes. It would be nice. I've thought about it, and yeah, now that I have a home, it's like, yeah, I'm just going to go mow the lawn now.
These are facts. When you have a house, you're constantly doing shit. I hate mowing the lawn. As you saw my dandelions out there that sprung up yesterday, I don't put down fertilizer anymore or weed killer. I don't fucking care, because just like in California, everybody is learning the hard way that having a lush, beautiful, green, golf course-like lawn in the long run ends up with an empty water table, and everybody's like, oh my God, what are we going to drink and bathe in?
Yeah. Well, when I moved into our house, it was a foreclosure originally, then the guy flipped it quick, and we moved in, and so it was like crabgrass spots missing here and there.
Oh my God, who the hell
said, hey, I'm a homeowner, I'm going
cares?
to put fertilizer down. Then I found out, hey, I'm going to put fertilizer down in the spring, and this will be the 3rd year that we've lived there. Put it down in the fall, put it down in the spring, and I'm mowing once, if not twice a week last year. But I have not put it up, but there's a huge difference, because I can see exactly where I stopped fertilizing, because my good next door neighbor has dandelions like lined up right
on the border.
And the guy that lives across the street is meticulous with his lawn, and he's got dandelions, and I swear he puts fertilizer down. But dandelions are good for bees, but I really don't want bees either, so motherfuckers.
I only mow every 2 or 3 weeks, like once every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And sometimes I let it go and I don't realize, because we get rain, I get busy, I'm going to go for a bike ride, I got my kids. and then I end up having to mow by popping a wheelie. Just like PETA had that picture on the other day of her backyard. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Former ITRadio faithful listener, PETA, where is she, down in Memphis?
Yes.
Okay, so she said she had to pop a wheelie to mow her fucking lawn. It looked like it was like a foot tall.
It had to be at least a foot tall. At least. And our idiot neighbors that moved in last year, where their rental company says, oh yeah, take care of your lawn, mowed, I think, 4 times the entire summer.
That sounds perfect to me.
Not when the grass is that long and it's a rental house on a residential street. Yeah.
Not everybody shares your same fervor
Section
for gardening. And
Section 8.
What
are we going to talk about? Why am I here?
Well, let's keep with the ITRadio thing here.
Okay.
So you did the show for 5 years. I first did the show in December of 2008. I think we did a total of 5 or 6 episodes together.
I think so. And then you had the few Rapping with Reverend.
I forgot about that. We cut some little bumpers of just a bit that he could play whenever, Rapping with the Rev.
Because I think I released those ones by themselves. Because we had the ITRadio shorts that Frosty, I, and Strange Brownie would call in, leave voicemails, and then I just push them out to the masses. So I think there's like 30 quickies. There might even be more than 30 quickies out there.
Jesus.
On top of all of the episodes, I think in total we did hit 300 episodes. So I started in July of 2005, and in February of 2006, some things came up. Bethany's dad passed away, and Frosty and I were, or at least I was we need to do it Monday and Thursday. We're going to record the shows. That's just what we did. We weren't getting paid. We weren't getting big audience at that point or a few fans. But nope, I have to do it. Like I said, I had to be tenacious. I needed something to do since I wasn't in wrestling, yelling at people, insulting people on a weekly basis. And that's when I was like, all right, what can I do since I can't do the show tonight? Let's do a Vulgarity Chronicles. So the first episode, which was episode 64, I started taking bits and pieces of the first 64 episodes, chopped them up, tried to get like the vulgarities. That one was really quick because it was almost like within a day's worth of time. And then when 128 came out, I cut it a little better as far as the vulgarities. So it was a 2-hour show of all vulgarities, or at least so if there was like a phrase or a little section of something that was either going to be vulgar or sexual or just a lot of swearing, I'd cut that in. And I think the third one for 192 was over 3 hours. And I didn't even get all 64 episodes in there. And then for the 10-year, I just released the Vulgarity Chronicles 4, which was 10 minutes just for a 3-hour episode.
Wow.
So I went through the entire episode. I mean, there were a few things I could have pulled in and used, but it's like, and I've even talked with Frosty, my former co-host. I'm like, what we said and did between 2005 and 2010, we could not get away with now. I mean, the things that we said and joked about with all the PC stuff, yeah, we're swearing right now, but there was so much that we said that we cannot say now.
I'm still trying to carry the torch for just not giving a fuck.
It's not so much giving a fuck, it's more I just don't want to deal with the rest of the world coming down. And
all the backlash.
Yeah. Because of, I'm not even going to bring up the certain subjects. So it's like, yep, I can't bring that up. Yeah, ITRadio in some ways was more of a shtick. And, hey, I'm on ITRadio, click, I'm going to go to bed. All right. Yeah.
So,
hey, look at me, fuck, ha, ha, ha.
The way that Graeme and I met, though, was many years ago in MPW, Midwest Pro Wrestling.
Actually, you met me, but we did not meet at MPW.
Cocksucker!
I met you through Brandon, Kid Crazy.
I didn't meet you until we were at the Quest.
Hey, fuck you, buddy!
Okay, so I knew Graeme from MPW.
You knew me from MPW.
Then, at an MSI show
Yes.
at the Quest,
Yes.
I noticed you and Frosty, and me and Lunchbox came up and started talking, and then I went up to the balcony.
Because I think we said some joke. I know that there was an Owen Hart reference about falling from the ceiling, and rest in peace, Owen Hart, but I forgot what the whole thing was. I don't know if we were trying to get somebody to jump off the balcony or what, but we made some wrestling reference, and you just happened to be standing like right near us, and all of a sudden you're like, "You're a weird cookie," and then you look at Frosty and you're like, "Is that Josiah?" No. Frosty should have been a wrestler, and he would have had the total size for it, but he was not a wrestler.
So that same MSI show, which does have a semi-infamous story, I was up on the balcony with Lunchbox. You and Frosty were down on the floor, and to get your attention, so I yell, "Fuck Joe!" And then you guys yelled it back. And we got a call and response going with just the four of us, and suddenly the crowd fucking got into it, like a lot. A lot.
Was it Uncle Fucker that started yelling "fuck Joe"? Or one of them said "fuck Joe," and they were like, "What?" And I think the crowd responded "fuck Joe," but you're like, "Oh," because it was, "Where's Joe?" "I don't know, fuck Joe," and that's where it started.
So then during the show, I had grabbed a piece of paper, and then a magic marker from one of the bartenders, and I wrote a "fuck Joe" sign, and I stopped Jimmy Urine. I'm like, Jimmy, and he's like,
that's
like,
where...
you know, I can't fucking read. So which was good, but then after the show, it gave me an easy in because I walked up to Jimmy as he was giving autographs and shit with Joe. And I'm like, "Jimmy." He's like, "What?" I'm like, I held it up. He's like, "Oh, fuck Joe." Okay, yeah, dude, I couldn't read that shit with the lights in my eyes. I'm like, "Well, this is Joe. Meet him. Shake his hand. Fuck him even. I don't even think he put up a fight." And so because I segued there, Lunchbox got to meet Jimmy Urine, which he almost fucking gave me road dome on the way back home for. He was so fucking ecstatic. And then he got all their autographs. It was awesome.
Because we got Steve Rise. We got, I think we got Lindsay's. I can't remember who the drummer's name is. Kitty. And... because some dude was standing in front of Jimmy Urine and wanted him to sign his balls, which Jimmy Urine did, even though the balls are going to lose the ink in 2 seconds. Yeah, we never did get Jimmy Urine's autograph at that one. But
I forgot about the signing balls thing. Jesus.
But that's where we first saw Tubring. Frosty and I saw Tubring a couple other times.
Oh, fuck. I remember those dudes.
There was Uncle Fucker was the first band that was with Snickers and the guy with the assless chaps and the banjo player and the violin. And then Tubring from Chicago, which was a spin-off in a way. Their first album, I believe, was produced by Trey from Mr. Bungle.
Awesome.
I saw MSI another time, and first song we got in just before the MSI was on, and... it was me, Nick Mondo, and Josiah. And as soon as Bitches started, somebody hit me from behind. My glasses flew off. I'm on the ground trying to find my glasses in the lab. If you've ever been in the lab, but I don't know what it's called now. It was a small venue with a...
very narrow, too.
Very narrow, yeah. And I did a couple of gigs there with the band that I was in before that. But very narrow, and even the stage was maybe double the size of the room we're in now. And
the room is 8 by 8.
I remember Jimmy Urine being like, "Man, this stage is awesome." He's bouncing off the walls. But yeah, I lost my glasses within Bitches. I was the one that drove. I could not drive on the way back. And yep, first MSI story was, yeah, I lost my glasses during Bitches. What track or what song was it? The first one?
Nice.
I didn't get to see the rest of what Jimmy Urine did, which is a stage show in itself. But yep, it's like that's at least one my MSI story.
I remember seeing them another time at First Ave with Screaming Monkey Boner when they decided to change their name to Screaming Mechanical Brain.
Didn't they open? So wasn't
Tyler, the creator, was there.
Oh, maybe that wasn't that. I thought that I was at a show. Screaming Monkey Boner were standing near us during that show that you and I met, and I think I was making fun of them, and somebody turned. He's like, "That's the lead singer right there."
Yeah.
Well, they fucking suck anyway. And I think they're still around. Every once in a while, I'll see their name pop up through Facebook or whatever. I'm like, that's... obviously, they haven't made it out of Minneapolis if it's not something that I'm seeing every day.
Same thing with, like, Nuisance and Black Flood Diesel. Around that era, the only bands I could think of that made it out of here was American Head Charge. And I don't know. So that was just a setup for the episode.
Are you fucking kidding me?
The episode is all about Pee Wee Herman.
Nerd! It's all about Pee Wee Herman.
We both love Pee Wee. We grew up with Pee Wee. We still have Pee Wee. I've introduced my daughters to Pee Wee.
My sister has introduced my nephew to Pee Wee. I've got pictures. It just showed up on Time Hop not too long ago where he was watching the giant underpants episode, which is probably my all-time favorite. It's when Pee Wee got sick, and so he's sick, and Miss Yvonne and Cowboy Curtis are all over there, and hey, Pee Wee, get better. And he's walking to his bed, and all of a sudden he looks over, he's like, hey, it's my giant underpants. And he's like, you can do a lot of cool things with giant underpants. And he goes through this whole 5-minute segment, and at the very end he walks right up to the camera with the giant underpants on his head and goes, giant underpants! And I don't know why it was my favorite episode. I don't know if it was because it had to do with underwear or what. And a few years ago, my parents actually bought me a pair of the world's largest underwear. That's like 4 Frosties in a row. Just huge. And I have worn them as a turban and a small vest. Yeah,
that's a small vest. That's like the story about my mom's underwear. When I went looking for a clean T-shirt in the laundry basket, and I pulled it out and went to put it on, and I realized it wasn't one of my T-shirts. It was one of my mom's pair of old white granny panties, because they're that
nice.
Big. For me, my favorite episodes are the episode with Roger
the Monster, because the alien is Izzy Baluba.
Okay, so that episode was like all time for me, and I know it was very early in the series. He was green with a giant foot and flipper arms and a big fucking goddamn eye. Like, it was 3/4 of the costume was the eye.
Okay, yeah, I remember him. I just don't remember the episode.
Also, Pee Wee Herman is responsible for me trying to make fruit-flavored ice cube popsicles in the tray. Remember that with the fucking toothpicks?
So when I grew up, and it wasn't until I was 16 that we pulled that off. So when I grew up watching Pee Wee when it was on Saturday mornings, it was 7 o'clock WCW Saturday mornings when the old ladies were still in the wheelchairs with the bleachers section right behind them, and the wrestlers would come past them. It was switching between that because my parents weren't allowing me to watch it, but I'd wake up early enough to watch it, bring down the Oreos and milk, and watch Pee Wee Herman on Saturday mornings, plus my cartoons.
It's a healthy breakfast.
Exactly. That's what I had right before I showed up here. And it had nothing technically to do with, I just have that Oreo crack addiction. So that was when I was younger, and then when I was a senior in high school on ABC Family, or what turned into ABC Family at about 6:30 in the morning, they had Pee Wee Herman on, or Pee Wee's Playhouse. And nice. So that was, my senior year. So, I mean, there were times, but then my parents did get me the VHS box set, and my friend and I that previous summer would watch it just constantly, and that's where the ice cubes came in. So we saw that episode. We did the milk, we did various, we put Mountain Dew in there, and we had, the whole 12 tray, so it'd be milk, Mountain Dew, and then we were like, hey, let's put some popcorn in the water. Just like stupid shit. No reason, no rhyme or reason. That's just what we did. But the shit we pulled that summer, I wouldn't be able to pull off now.
Makes you sound like a culinary Andy Warhol.
Yeah, I wouldn't eat it. But the milk was decent. Obviously, you can only put it in milk to drink, because put it in Mountain Dew.
Ew.
Or water, for that matter. It's just watered down,
That sounds like Mountain Dew and milk is a recipe for me to have explosive diarrhea.
We also purposely just left it in my friend's parents' freezer. So when they opened it, they had absolutely no idea what the hell they were looking at. So, but yeah, Pee Wee Herman was, my life, and for years. And Pee Wee's Big Adventure, one of my all-time favorite movies. I don't know how my parents' VHS withstood this the time that, especially the Large Marge. I don't know how many times my sister and I rewound that and paused it on Large Marge. And it wasn't like the actual VHS, it was a copy of wherever my parents got it from. Mm-hmm. So it was like one movie, Pee Wee Herman, another movie, all on the VHS. How that VHS, and I still have it, if I popped in the VCR, it would probably still work. But how it, with all the rewinding, I don't think we ever actually ruined any of the VHSs, but yet you hear people constantly saying, I ruined my VHSs by rewinding too much.
Interesting. My dad got so pissed about the sticky mess I made in the ice cube trays. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I saw it on Pee Wee. At that point, I was 5. Mm-hmm. All right. So for me, our family photo when I was 5, I have a white dress shirt, a gray suit, and a red bow tie. Like, I had the fucking Pee Wee suit on, and that's forever sitting on the ledge of their family room. That people are like, oh, nice bow tie. I'm like, no, seriously, that's the Pee Wee suit.
I think there's one where I did have I had the gray shirt. I don't know if it was the red bow tie though, but I was reading like a Time magazine professional shot too. Not with my family, just professional. Like my parents bought that whole first through 10 years old thing, and yep, and then Fraggle Rock too. But my other favorite episode, so the Giant Underpants, Zizzy Beluba was a good one. That was the alien that took over, and the secret word was Zizzy Beluba. And I did internet wrestling, like where you'd do kind of like the role playing shit. And so I had Weird Cookie, I had a dude named Zizzy Beluba, I had Squirrely, I had all these various people. But yep, Zizzy Beluba was the alien from Pee Wee Herman that I incorporated into this internet wrestling bullshit. And also the episode where he gets all of the Playhouse crew to do his chores. Mm-hmm. Yep, this vacuuming is so much fun. I don't know how many times I've gotten little kids to do all the yard work that way.
So Pee Wee taught you reverse psychology. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Life lessons.
I remember one Christmas. It was the same year. I was 5. And just one more note on that family photo. That was our photo in the church directory of all the families in the church.
Nice.
Yeah, that will live on for lots of people's homes forever.
Nice.
Or until they burn down. So my aunt was going to get me the talking Pee Wee doll. And my mom said, oh, don't get him that. Get him something he'll like more. Now as a parent, I realized she did that so she wouldn't have to fucking hear the doll.
Did you actually ever see the dolls? I
play with them. I thought they were awesome.
So the stand-up one, so that could sit on Cherry. So my ex-roommate and her ex-boyfriend for one of my birthdays got me Cherry and the Pee Wee doll. And if you can find a working Pee Wee doll that talks normal, that's worth way more than just the Pee Wee doll itself, because all of the Pee Wee doll strings made them talk super, super fast. Yeah. Like all of them. So if you could find a working one, which was rare, but everybody had the ones that... That's
you had to hold the string and like let it go in on. You couldn't just pull it and let go. You had to like
never get it to sound like Pee Wee. It was always that slow. It was either slow or super fast. There was no in between.
You know what I got instead of the Pee Wee doll?
AIDS.
No, that was a thing then, but they weren't putting it under Christmas trees as much as into people's butts.
You got Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody.
No, my parents have horrible taste in music. They never listened to Queen. I got the Ninja Turtle van.
That was one thing I never got.
That was a fucking sweet gift.
You haven't seen my turtle tattoo up close yet.
I've seen pictures of it.
But you have not seen it in the flesh.
Right. Graeme got the original 1987 cartoon 4 turtles tattooed on his body. It looks fantastic.
All because some motherfucker decided 2 weeks before. So he commissioned my tattoo, or one of my tattoo guys, Krieger Tattoo out of Eau Claire. He commissioned him to do the turtle thing. He said he worked on it for hours, just trying to get everything correct. And like 2 weeks before his scheduled tattoo, he's like, yeah, I don't feel like wanting it. So I already had the $50 down payment, which for all my tattoos, all 3 of them, I've never had to put a down payment on. Mm-hmm. Like, luckily enough, I'm good with those tattoo guys. But he posts it on Facebook and saying, hey, does anyone want this tattoo? And he posts it. My mom goes, don't tell Graeme. He turns around and what tell Graeme, and tags me in it. And somebody else asked for it at that same day, and I started texting them and saying, hey, I'll totally take it. And so my mom, even though I have the apple tattoo, that was my first one, and then the 13 on my shoulder blade, she set me up to get the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles tattoo without really realizing it. So now when anyone's like, so why'd you get it? Because of my mom? What do you mean? Well, she said, don't tell me about it, and it came out to me, and I just happened to get it.
Whoops.
Yep, it's a whole half sleeve on my right shoulder, and I think in total it was about 10 hours.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of green fill.
My ass was sore by the end of it.
He means his ass was sore from sitting. It's not on his ass.
I just said it was on my shoulder.
Right, but I just want to clarify, because in our day and age, people miss minute details like that. I actually missed that minute detail.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here listening.
And if you listen to ITRadio, you'll be like, oh yeah, he's got it on his shoulder. But ITRadio was known for the vulgarities and ass talk all the time. And
Well, I like to keep it very homoerotic on my shows because gay jokes are funny.
How you fellas doing?
Anyway, so back to Pee Wee though. So yep, growing up, Pee Wee was huge. My sister and I think it was in 2008, were going to Canada, and we were in my grandparents' van with the DVD player and put in Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And my sister was sitting in the back seat. I was sitting in the van. I was sitting in the middle seats, and she's watching me watch the movie as I'm reciting everything without even realizing it. So the whole beginning where he's talking and Spack, and when he goes up to the bike, good morning, I'm here.
So you were mouthing the words out loud or not out loud?
I think I was whispering them, but
Okay.
she was watching me at least move my mouth with the movie.
That, in my head, reminds me of the opening of Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time video. She's sitting in a trailer next to a guy that's sleeping, watching some romantic old black and white movie, and she's mouthing the words that the chick says.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, I can do it with Biodome too, but yeah, Pee Wee.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. That was my second favorite movie, but Pee Wee's Big Adventure was always the go-to favorite movie, and
There's a disparity in quality between those two films, in most people's opinion.
in most people's opinions, yeah.
I liked Biodome.
I remember seeing it in the movie theater by myself, and I was like, I so want to go to Tucson and find this bubble. But I was a huge Pauly Shore fan, though, too. Because there was one summer, I think my cousin and I watched every single Pauly Shore movie that we could possibly rent.
All 6 of them?
All 6, plus Case of the Inferno.
I don't even know what that is.
I believe it was Case of the Inferno. It was where he's almost playing a hick, and they kind of do a bank heist or get some money. And in the movie, they are going down a road, and they are talking about needing to go to the bathroom, and that if they can hold it, which reminded me of Biodome. Hey, can you hold it? Negatory. That's how they found Biodome, was because Doyle needed to go to the bathroom.
All right, let me just throw this out there. So we got Encino Man, Biodome, In the Army Now, Jury Duty.
Case of the Inferno. Pauly Shore is Dead.
So only 4 of those are movies that most people have heard of.
Yep.
I feel like there was another one, but there's not.
If there was, I can't think of what it is.
Well, so...
But Pauly Shore is technically still relevant, yet no one knows.
Oh, very much so.
But yet no one knows where Brandon Fraser is. Other than he's not getting any gigs because no one can stand him.
Well, Pauly Shore was just on an episode of Workaholics this last season. The premiere episode where Dane Cook played a boss at another branch of Telemericorps that they transferred to. And it was all fucking Wolf of Wall Street over there.
I can't watch Dane Cook.
He's an asshole,
Yeah.
but I liked watching him get his comeuppance at that episode. And then they broke out Pauly Shore. I'm like, no.
I saw him, and I know it was my Facebook profile picture. Rob Page and I went and saw him when he was in New Hope. But yeah, I listened to Pauly Shore in the 90s. I have his CD stand up from that. I was let down, but it was still Pauly Shore.
Yeah.
And did get a picture with him. Got some signatures, but it's like, I wish it was like the 1990s Pauly Shore stand-up versus what it is now. Because now it's like, yep, I'm old, I'm fat. Or he was at that kind of point, but he didn't do the whole squirrely thing and the high-pitched voice, but what can you do?
More people probably remember Pauly Shore from when he was on MTV than his movies.
Probably.
But he was on MTV, I think, because of his movies.
Yes, and watching like the behind the scenes of the summer things, they were saying that Pauly Shore had women lined up from his hotel room.
I believe it.
Mm-hmm. And all because he dressed up in his mom's clothes.
Yeah, Pauly Shore, Jesse Camp owes everything he ever became to Pauly Shore. It was Pauly Shore, he begat the Jesse Camp character. Those two are cut from the same cloth, but in different decades.
Yep. And Jesse Camp was just on a whole lot of drugs.
Yeah, well, you couldn't tell.
Pauly Shore was too, but he wasn't. His was more marijuana versus
Heroin
and crack and everything else.
Did Jesse Camp do crack?
Jesse Camp probably did anything and everything underneath the sun.
Good for him.
I just saw something on Yahoo that posted like, whatever happened to Jesse Camp? And then so Pee Wee, Pauly Shore, which led into Tom Green. The day
Yes.
Tom Green got the Bum Bum song on
TRL.
the TRL was the greatest moment of TRL in my life. I watched it. I was so like, that is fucking awesome when he went out into New York
In the Times Square.
and stopped that cop on the horse. Because I think when he went out there to announce that he won, they had the cop on the horse, and he was talking to him too. He's like, "Yeah, I'm totally the TRL winner," and then he discontinued the video. It was all set up. I don't care. I was a wrestling fan. I didn't want to hear that it was set up. I really wanted to think that Tom Green won the TRL final countdown for the week.
Yeah.
And nope, it was all set up. It was all MTV bullshit. It was just like wrestling. It was a work, but I don't care.
That's
it was
just
still,
like...
It was still real to me, damn it.
That's like Together. Remember Together? Their TV show about a boy band?
Yes. On Nickelodeon? No? I'm thinking of it.
No, you're thinking of Big Time Rush.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and that show was fucking awful.
That was in between like Victorious and iCarly.
Yeah. So, Together, Kevin Farley was in that with some kid who was in the band as part of a Make-A-Wish Foundation. And that kid really died from an infectious disease. So... art imitated life imitating art. And then they had this guy that played like a wigger, and he's like Mickey Park, and he was from like Jersey and shit, and he was like the bad boy rapper type. And everything I ever saw him in again, which was maybe like 3 other shows or movies, and I was like, oh fuck, it's Mickey Park.
And yet no one has a clue who you're talking about.
Nope, just me, not even you. So I
do the same thing. I'm like, hey, that's that guy, and they're like, who?
I drop references like that in articles on the PRP.com, and people are like, I don't think anybody caught that reference. But God damn it, doesn't anybody remember Gordo from Lizzie McGuire? So let's lightly address the big elephant in the room for Pee Wee, which was the downfall of his popularity in 1991 when Paul Reubens was busted for allegedly masturbating in an adult film theater.
This is my whole take on that. And this is how I've gotten through life, and I will fight it to the end, despite what my t-shirt shows at the moment, which we have not discussed yet.
He is wearing a Pee Wee shirt right now, which is Paul Reubens' mugshot.
Now, and it says, I'm a rebel, I'm a loner, Dottie, on it. And I actually wanted that. There's a different t-shirt that's been popping up on Facebook that I wanted, which was like a cartoon drawing of a skull with handlebars with I'm a loner, I'm a rebel, Dottie. And that's what I put on my wish list for Christmas, and this is the shirt I got because I couldn't figure out the URL. And that was the biggest disappointment, I think, in Christmas in years for me. Like, oh yeah, here it is. And I opened up the gift from Bethany, my wife, she's like, that's not the shirt. No, not even close.
Fuck.
Because in my mind, Paul Reubens and Pee Wee Herman are 2 totally separate, different people.
I agree.
Because everyone's like, but Paul Reubens jerked off in a movie theater. But it was an adult movie theater. It's not like he raped little kids. It's not like he...
went to kindercare and totally gacked off into somebody's apple juice.
Yeah, he didn't do the Bill Cosby and roofie everybody. And maybe he did, but he didn't get caught.
You bastard!
But Paul
Good for
Reubens,
him.
though, because my parents never said you can't watch Pee Wee because he jerked off in a theater. Now, if it was Bill Cosby, they may say, no, here's this family guy who's always been good on values, and you black thugs should stop doing what you're doing and be professional, and yet then he gets caught years later. But Paul Reubens and Pee Wee Herman, in my mind, are 2 totally different people. I never saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Paul
I
Reubens.
did, and it was fucking funny. It was cool. He nailed that part.
But I mean, but I did like Paul Reubens, though, in Everybody Loves Raymond, the one episode that he was in as Amy's brother.
But then they changed the character to Chris.
Can't think of what his name is. But
He was in the show Get a Life.
Yeah. I mean, he did a good job, but he was
And
very...
the movie Cabin Boy.
I've seen clips.
It's funny. Go on.
But no, that was just one of those things, like Paul Reubens and Pee Wee Herman, in my mind, were never in the same conversation, ever. Other than right now. They weren't... That was the whole thing. It's like, even the mugshot that I'm wearing on the shirt, I'm like...
It's Paul Reubens.
It's Paul Reubens. It's
got
not,
long hair and a goatee.
Yeah, that's not Pee Wee Herman. And when Pee Wee Herman came back in the late 2009, 2010 area when he said, hey, I'm going to make my comeback. I'm going to make a movie, which came out 6 years later. Then he did the Broadway Pee-wee's Playhouse. I remember seeing him like on Conan when
Jay Leno,
but I think he and Conan, he came across the studio on a bike on water, and he was pedaling along that, and I sat in front of the TV with the biggest shit-eating grin on my face because it was Pee-wee. That motherfucker did not age.
I recently watched the old 2010 Raw where he was the guest host.
That was the greatest really. That was the really one.
I teared up. Like right there, I reconnected with a piece of my childhood that has been lost for so long. It was incredible.
And The Miz used that really, and he still uses the really, all because of Pee Wee Herman. I laughed because Pee Wee Herman did. After that week was done, I was like, what the fuck? You're totally ripping off Pee Wee Herman, because Pee Wee Herman kept saying really to him, and that's where the really from The Miz came. But yeah, I did the same thing with that shit-eating grin. I'm like, this is the greatest episode of Raw ever. Greatest guest host. There might have been a couple others, but that was the greatest Raw guest host, was Pee Wee Herman.
So if I may interject here, and you just set up like the biggest point I wanted to nail with this episode, is that Paul Reubens was in the theater. Pee-wee wasn't in there.
Nope.
So all that backlash that he faced was bullshit, and famous people stood up for him, said how awesome he was, and how it wasn't probably true. Bill Cosby, ironically, was one of his biggest defenders, and now your parents probably won't let you have any Jell-O pudding pops. So I just want to illustrate for you.
I have one vanilla Jell-O pudding left at my house that I might eat tonight.
There you go, in honor of Bill Cosby committing rape after rape after rape. So here is what America seems to think was going on in the movie theater. Here's my impression.
Okay.
Imagine a screen. There's some people fucking, and in my head, Pee-wee walks in and he sits down. He's like, not a lot of people in here. And he opens up the Raisinets. He's like, raisiny. And then he whips out his dick and he's just like, and he starts going to town. He's like, oh, she's faking it. Pee-wee's busting a nut! Ah! I need a fucking towel. That's not what happened. It was Paul Reubens. God, look at how much I just overloaded the mic.
You totally maxed that out.
I can totally fix that in editing.
It didn't sound bad, though. Like, in my ears, it didn't sound bad. Or my ear.
Right, because you're deaf in one.
Yes. But no, Pee Wee Herman, though, was not
present.
And then what was funny was years later, so Pee Wee Herman, like I said, or Paul Reubens, like I said, was on Everybody Loves Raymond. Then just recently, Frank Willard, who was Amy's dad on Everybody Loves Raymond,
got busted for it too.
And he was just in the theater, but he wasn't actually doing anything. So it's like, what? Celebrities can't go to adult film store. What are you supposed to do in there? Just be like,
it's a porn theater.
Exactly.
You go there to watch pornography. And most people I know, even the most straight-laced people, if you watch enough hot fucking on the screen and it's been a while since you've had a piece, you're going to start to, go at least half-mast. You got a propensity for touching yourself. When you go into these places, obviously...
Is he supposed to be wearing a hoodie or something to hide his boner while he's masturbating?
Well, if he would have gone to the future and seen Peter Griffin inventing the Yankit, which is the blanket you wear that has fake hands coming out of the sleeve so you can masturbate discreetly underneath it, the whole thing would have been solved. I did some research for the episode. I just want to hammer out this. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and this is per RottenTomatoes.com, 89% approval. My kids love that movie. The other day, we watched Big Top Pee-wee on Demand because my oldest, I was like, a different Pee-wee movie. We got a half an hour. Yeah, she was excited. Half an hour in, we shut it off. 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's kind of poopy.
I have never met a person who's actually admitted watching, or they may say, yeah, I watched it, but I watched it once, and that's all I'm going to watch. There was no Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
It was shit.
And when you think about, there's Pee-wee's Playhouse and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. There is no Big Top Pee-wee. And so when Pee-wee's Big Holiday came out, everyone was excited for it because Paul Reubens or transforming back into Pee-wee. Granted, yeah, he's got a little extra.
Older.
He's a little older, but I know his neck and everything else has gotten flabbier. So I know that there are pictures online where they're holding his neck back, and you can kind of see sometimes the tape in the movie, in Pee-wee's Big Holiday. But that motherfucker did not age. His mannerisms, his talking is a little... He can't get as high as he did before, but the mannerisms, especially the balloon scene in Pee-wee's Big Holiday, that 5 minutes that he's deflating that balloon, those mannerisms, that brought my childhood, even though that's halfway through the movie, that made the entire movie. But I also have a soft spot for that bit. There is an 80s stand-up where he pulls out a whole bunch of stuff, gag bag, and he opens up the balloon, or pulls out the balloon, blows it up, and deflates it.
You're welcome, Carrot Top, by the way.
And Carrot Top has a huge
I know
thing, and Pee-wee's bag was
tiny,
like a lunch sack. And but watching that, and I think he did it on Conan too. I can't remember though for sure, but just watching those mannerisms where his face ticks and everything, it's like, yep, he has not lost it.
It's vintage Pee-wee. He's got it nailed. That movie, if you don't know what we're talking about, they made a movie direct to Netflix. You can watch it now. It's called Pee-wee's Big Holiday. Rotten Tomatoes, 81%.
Not bad.
You're hearing it from both me and Graeme. I really liked it. I didn't love it.
Correct. There were spots, I'd have to watch it quite a few more times. I did watch it with my sister and parents when I was visiting my sister in Nebraska, but I wouldn't be able to quote it like I can Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Why?
The most quotable thing I remember is Joe Manganiello, the actor, is in
Bless
it,
you.
playing himself. And Pee-wee's they're going back and forth where Joe Manganiello saying his name. Pee-wee's like, Joe Manganiello.
I can't even...
Are you saying it? Or it sounds like you said something with Jello. No, I said your name, John Manganiello. So, and I actually fell asleep watching it, not because it was boring, but because I started watching it at 11 o'clock at night. Poor decision.
Fuck you, Netflix, for letting that happen.
Right.
They should turn it off at like 11.
They should. So there's a raging sense of homoeroticism between Pee-wee and Joe Manganiello that's innocent. Like, we get it because we're adults, because Pee-wee's got that childlike forever mind.
But if you think about it, go back to Pee-wee's Playhouse. There are so many references that adults got that we don't get, or I don't even think I would get it now, or I wouldn't think of it the same way because it's my childhood. And there were some wall spots in Pee-wee's Big Holiday.
I fell asleep around the part where he met the guy in like the forest or the swamp.
Yeah, there was lots of cut and takes. It wasn't as Pee-wee's Big Adventure like, but the one scene that when I watched it the first time, that intro, like, what the fuck is going on with that goddamn alien?
I don't know!
Yeah, I didn't see that part.
It's right at the beginning.
Wait, it is?
His
dream sequence that opens the movie.
Correct. So the dream sequence in Pee-wee's Big Adventure deals with the movie, with a bike, with his bike. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that this dream sequence at the very end is that ties the dream sequence to the end of the movie is that friendship bracelet.
What's the significance?
That's the only thing. There's no mention of the alien. The alien never comes back. He doesn't have another dream sequence or a nightmare where Francis shows up and he's in the devil costume or anything.
Fucking Francis.
Or when they're fixing the bike and the clowns are all freaking out. That doesn't happen. I mean, they have the dream sequences with him and Joe where they're doing okay, are these guys going to make out by the end of the movie type of thing?
I don't know! I'm like, all right, this better not ruin the movie. And then why?
The best part of the best fact of Pee-wee's Big Holiday is it's exactly like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. There's no major CGI. There's no over-the-top production compared to what they could have done with everything that's coming out in 2016.
Yeah.
Pee-wee, it was you could have put that in the 80s and that would have worked.
The opening alien sequence, I'm like, what the fuck?
Exactly. I'm like, what is this going to have to do with the movie? Like, it didn't make any sense. And I guess, yeah, now that I was thinking about it, I'm like, oh, well, it kind of has to do with the fact that he doesn't want to leave Fairville. But but that really it wasn't about Fairville at all. Or it was like, I just can't leave my city. I mean, that was the first 5 or 15 minutes of the movie, and then he's out of Fairville until the end.
The other thing is once he wakes up from the dream, they bust into another Rube Goldberg machine breakfast setup, and I was like, I liked it, but at the same time I was like, oh, this is kind of, are you paying homage or are you just getting lazy with the ideas?
I don't think it was getting lazy. I think it was maybe he realized, okay, this intro's going to be lame to some people, but if I want to bring them back in within the first 3 minutes, let's do the same. I mean, it wasn't the exact.
No, it was totally different, and I knew he did it for nostalgia. But here's the one thing I take away from the Rube Goldberg breakfast machines, and this is because of my food addiction. He does all this stuff, and there's a whole breakfast, and he takes like one bite, and he gets up. I'm like, what the fuck? You're going to leave all that food?
He did that in the first movie.
Yes, it bugs the shit out of me to this day. It's like there's movies when somebody has a dog, and then there's a disaster, and they never explain where the dog went. I'm like, where the fuck is that dog?
And was this set up every day? Does Pee Wee set that shit up every day to rig himself up? And then the fact that his neighbors within Fairville have their houses set up in his route with his little car. And,
it's all a part of it.
And the fact that they have the little Pee Wee silhouette that he can just drive through.
Yes.
And the kids are just, open the door. Yep, Pee Wee's coming through. All right. So when he went to go find Joe in New York, did those people open up the door? No, we were just looking way too into it. But did they open the door and like, where the fuck is Pee Wee? Fuck, we have all this food and there's no Pee Wee to eat it.
Maybe his house burned down because he wasn't there to like shut off the toaster afterwards.
Well, the first one had the candle.
Right, burning the string.
And so going back to Pee Wee's Big Adventure, so have you ever watched it on DVD?
Yeah, I have it on DVD.
Do you notice one thing that is not in, or that's missing from the DVD that is not in the VHS or the original?
Wait. Something that's in the DVD that was not in the original?
No, it's in the original, but it's not technically in the DVD unless you listen to...
Too many years have gone by.
So when he's driving with Mickey in the convertible, and so they're going down the sound stage, and so he starts seeing the signs show up on his passenger side, like falling rocks and the twirls. You could see the train track that they were pulling the signs on. Mm-hmm. For the DVD, they cut that out. So you don't see the track. Like, so they were trying to say, oh yeah, we're cutting it up. So if you watch or listen to the commentary during that scene, Tim Burton and Pee Wee, or Paul Rubens, since it's Paul Rubens doing the commentary, it's not Pee Wee since he's not in the character,
right,
even said there were so many fans who were pissed off when they re-edited it because there was you couldn't see the tracks that they were pulling everything down on.
Interesting.
It was just one of those. And then also in Pee Wee's Big Holiday, I was waiting for the giant thumb when he was trying to hitchhike.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, where is the thumb? When I saw the pictures where he's out on trying to hitchhike, I'm like, there's got to be a thumb. There's got to be the giant eyes where he's in the middle of nowhere and all you see are the eyes, and then all of a sudden all the animals show up. No, that didn't happen.
I was watching it with the Dirty Bee, and as we're watching it, the one thing that made us laugh the hardest, and her specifically, more than me even, was the scream from the snake thing. The high-pitched, like, sustained scream that went on for like a scene and a half.
That was good. The pillow fight, well, he got to watch it but wasn't a part of it, didn't make sense. I mean, it made sense, but when the 3 outlaw chicks were like, hey, the police officers are here, and then they decide to have a pillow fight, and he's just kind of sitting there and can't do anything until he gets hit and passes out.
Right.
But, I mean, yeah, but I went into it, I was waiting. I don't have a Netflix, but I do have my sister's password and everything, and it was for Fuller House to begin with, but I knew Pee Wee was coming.
Right.
And I couldn't care less so much about Full House. I did watch, I think, the first 3 episodes, but the only reason I really, really, really needed the Netflix password, and I was saying this for about a year that I needed it, but I wasn't going to take it until I absolutely needed it or wanted it for Fuller House.
Once the time came for the shows to be there, so you didn't abuse it or anything.
Nope. I mean, I use it now and watch trailer. I'm finally actually watching Trailer Park Boys other than watching on YouTube and various clips that way.
I have the first 7 seasons on DVD and all 3 of the movies, and then to say goodnight to the bad guys. I also liked when he was sleeping in the bedroom and the farmer's daughters were all trying to like get in there to fall in love, and he's like, "I'm saving myself for marriage." That was the loudest laugh I made the whole movie.
Did you? I noticed this not the first time, but the second time. So the one daughter comes up to the window and she falls off the tree, and then later when the one daughter comes into the room and he's going to go out the window, he walks on to the roof. Mm-hmm. But 2 seconds later, one of the daughters fell off the tree that was right there.
So you could just fix that in editing. That was just lazy editing.
That was lazy editing. Oh, and then when he's with the salesman guy.
Yeah.
When he goes to the snake place. So he rolls up the window and then rolls it down for a half a second. So you see it rolling up and then it cuts inside and then it starts rolling up again. So it wasn't that continuity or whatever that word is.
Continuity.
Yes. So it wasn't there. And so I was like, that was like, maybe they purposely did that for
comedic effect.
Pee Wee fans, like that little subtle whatever. It's like that's it. I even had to rewind him, like, did that actually just happen? It's all the way up, and then all of a sudden it starts going back up when it's inside.
Well, we're going to wind it down here. I just want to discuss one big part of your old show.
Okay.
Was the RPS Intercontinental Title Challenge.
You said it wrong.
Well, tell me what it was.
It was the RPS Intercontinental Championship Challenge.
Okay.
ITRadio's Rock, Paper, Scissors Intercontinental. So it wasn't RPS, but we'd call it RPS, but it was ITRadio's Rock, Paper, Scissors Intercontinental Championship Challenge.
So I have asked your permission to inherit that bit, to keep the legacy of your old show going and paying homage to you for letting me, for introducing me to podcasting years ago. You thought that I should come up with something original, but I like the bit too much.
It's one of those, like, and I had to ask a few people, I'm like, and even some of them were like, why the fuck is he doing that? No, that's just completely stealing it. And because I was talking with Voodoo Stevie, he's like, that was one bit I didn't do. He had bands on his show that he would play, but he did not call them the featured band. And I was talking to Frosty about it, I'm like, he could have said featured band, but he didn't have a 10-second drum solo intro just to go, featured band of the show coming up. Yup. But 10-15 second drum solo for absolutely no fucking reason, just to introduce a band. And Wiggly of Smart Wrestling Fan, We Talk Games, Shikara, Podcast A Go-Go, the video, I think that was the video, but they were still calling it the podcast. He was pissed.
He was pissed? He was legitimately like, motherfucker, you can't do that.
No, he wasn't pissed that we couldn't do it. He was pissed that he was doing a wrestling show and didn't think of doing RPS as like a gag, because so many wrestlers, like tag teams, will be like, who's going first? And they do the RPS. And I don't even remember where it came up that I'm like, yeah, we should just do this RPS challenge. And it just took off. And we had one guy that won countless RPS challenges.
Wasn't it Voodoo Stevie?
No, it was Ultimo.
And
then there was Genesis. So both these two guys were from Europe. Genesis sucked when it came to RPS. I felt so bad for the guy. And this Ultimo guy, and we didn't rig. I think there maybe had been like 5 matches that we rigged, but we did not rig those challenges. So people would send in their 5 hands, rock, paper, or scissors, and he would win every single episode. And there was one other guy that, Danny Noonan, who had a pretty good winning streak, but it wasn't like Ultimo's. I don't even know how many episodes Ultimo won. But then we did, to get the Graeme Tattoo Fund, my ex-roommate Rain offered a picture of her in a bikini, which she'd do bikini shots, but she wouldn't do them publicly. Mm-hmm. And so she used that to help get money from her fans to help fund my tattoo. And So for like every $5 was like a ticket or a token, so you could possibly win this huge grab bag. I mean, there was wrestling figurines, wrestling ring, like tiny one. It was a poster of Rain in this bikini, and Ultimo shelved a shit ton of money, and Genesis shelved a shit total of money, and we went to pick it, and we were pretty sure it was going to be one of those two, and I felt so bad because Ultimo won, and Genesis was like,
Cocksucker!
dude, how the fuck do you lose everything? He was a champion. He works with he's a huge dude. He's like 6'4", 6'5", and 300 pounds.
Jesus.
He has worked for Paige's mom from the WWE, her federation over there. So I think was trained by her husband, Paige's dad. I could be wrong, but I know that he's worked for that federation. I just don't know what it is. I think it's like WXW, but I'm not sure. But yeah, the ITRadio RPS challenge, if you want it, go for it.
Well, that's good, because Tim and I, number one fan Tim, who was in episode 4, we did it. And as it turned out, I didn't introduce it well enough. I kind of just threw it out there. And then when we went, I didn't say what the hands were.
So you were just going...
Yes! Yes! And he beat me. He won the first 2 hands, and he's like he's the initial champion. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to officially start the bit now with episode 5 here. So, Graeme, introduce the RPS. You fucking call it is.
So I'm going to do the radio intro. And
do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of the Middle Ages, it's time for ITRadio's Rock, Paper, Scissors Intercontinental Championship Challenge, where what you got to do is send in 5 hands to title@turkeyvan.com. That's TITLE at turkeyvan.com. And with your... Fuck, I can't remember it.
Well, basically, with your hands, you will go up against a champion, and we will do it.
You send in 5 hands, rock, paper, or scissors, and you go up against a challenge.
So now you would instant message me on the Facebook group for the show, which is facebook.com/group/Blumpkin, A-N-D, friends, Blumpkin and friends. So,
I was like, what the fuck is A-N-D?
Because you can't fucking put an ampersand in an internet address.
When you're like, Blumpkin, A-N-D, friends. Wait, what?
I spelled it because look at the logo; it's an ampersand.
But
and
here,
then when you spell it out,
in my mind, I'm sitting there like, what does A-N-D stand for? I couldn't figure it out.
It's not like an anagram or anything. All right, let's do this now.
All right.
So hand number 1, Graeme, go.
How about you give them to me and then I will go? No, I'm kidding.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Because Tim's not on the show, so therefore I can win. No. My first hand is a paper.
He threw rock. Point to Graeme.
Go figure.
And let's go. Hand number 2.
Scissors.
Point goes to Graeme. Well, it's supposed to be best out of 5 for you?
It's best out of 5, so it's...
I was going to do 3, but okay.
Well, no, it's the first person to get to 3, but that's why we had 5 was for that tiebreaker.
Hand number 3.
Or if we did tie. What are the choices? Rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah.
When you did call, Tim, what was he trying to give you? I know we hit pause, but because you were like, no, rock, paper, scissors.
He said hammer at some point. For the first one, when I wrote down rock, he's like hammer. I'm like, no, it's rock, paper, scissors.
No, there's no H in RPS. What the fuck? It's silent. It's silent. Let's do scissors.
You lose. Point goes to Tim. He threw a rock. Hand number 4.
Scissors.
That's a tie. He also said scissors. So
fuck.
That's oh shit.
So it's 2-2. If we tie, we're fucked.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go tiebreaker to the champion. Okay. Hand number 5.
Rock.
He threw paper. That's a tie.
Fuck.
I'm not even joking. That's a. All right. So this now. Wait, no, I am playing for Tim.
No, hold on.
Tim.
So
it's 2-2.
No, because the first 2 were mine.
And then he got 1.
And then we tied.
And then third one was him.
Then you said
Graeme, Tim, tie,
you said
Tim.
we tied, so I thought you meant that we had the same hand.
So here's the tiebreaker. We're actually going to physically do this. Now I am playing for Tim. Get your hand out there. Get ready. Hand number 6, the tiebreaker. Fuck! I threw paper, he threw scissors. Number one fan Tim has his title stolen by Graeme of ITRadio fame. Son of a bitch.
I only heard the second hand. I knew what the first hand was going to be because he's a male. I did the show. I created RPS. I did the research. So there is research. I'll just say this. There is research with RPS that most males will throw a rock for the first hand.
It's interesting.
They've actually done research on it, not me. And there was once a wine by a company called Rochambeau. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But whatever Cartman played.
Rochambeau.
Called RPS, or Rock, Paper, Scissors Wine. So I was at some liquor store, and and it was during ITRadio time, and I just happened to walk past this aisle, and here sitting on the shelf, probably surrounded by other stuff, but light shining right on it, Rock, Paper, Scissors Wine.
Interesting.
Couldn't find it for the life of me anywhere else. I even went back to that liquor store like 2 years later, and the guy that owned the liquor store and did all of the ordering said, yeah, that actually came through on a truck, and actually we've never had it since. But no, I did like it. But he actually remembered what I was talking about. But that was like the disappointing thing, not to be able to find it ever again.
Do you remember the episode of ITRadio? You asked how many times is this or that, and then somebody texted in, or somebody messaged in, how many times is Blumpkin going to scratch his nuts? Because your show had video, mine doesn't. So somebody mentioned that, I'm like, oh my God, I just realized how many times. Is an average of 4 or 5 times a show. I'd have to reach down and literally manipulate my sack.
It was probably a pedo.
Well, that's the second time I did it this show that I've kept track. So when you sit in a chair like this recording, the heat builds up and your sack sticks to your legs and it makes it itchy. And I'm notorious for scratching my nuts. Not even scratching, like grabbing a piece of sack and twisting it.
But you didn't see, you brought it up. See, I would just go, and I think it was even in the first episode or once we started going live, I'm like, my fucking nuts itch, my balls itch. Like that was just one of those. So it was like my nice yes and my balls itch. Peter would talk about that all the time. She's like, your balls itch all the fucking time. Yep. They never were like, you swear too much. Nope. The fans of ITRadio knew that, yeah, it sounded like we were in a dorm room. And why? My wall was right next to, or the room at the apartment was right next to the hallway. And I'm sure they heard a whole lot of fucking. And I'm pretty sure that if ITRadio was going good and I had my window open, which was right next to the walkway, there's a whole lot of fucking going on there too. And in one episode, it was a Halloween episode, I think our first Halloween episode for ITRadio. It was me, Strange Brownie, at Frosty's old apartment. And during the show, all of a sudden, the door opens and 2 old ladies walk into his apartment. They come in, so there's like a 5 or a 4 foot entrance. You don't see anything. Mm-hmm. And then they're staring at us as we're staring at them talking. And probably, I don't even know what we were saying at that time. We're like, yeah, you got the wrong apartment. Oh, yeah, I guess we do. And they kind of walked out slowly so they could keep hearing us. And then I threw candy at Brownie's nuts.
Nice.
Yeah, a whole bag of fucking candy, just whipped it right at his nuts. He got so abused.
I'm going to end it right on that thought.
All right.
So,
nut scratching, motherfuckers.
Thank you for tuning into this extended ITRadio tribute episode of Blumpkin and Friends. I'm the Reverend Johnny Blumpkin.
I'm Graeme from ITRadio.
He's Graeme from ITRadio.
You can follow me if you want on Twitter at Graeme, GraemeVS, GRAEME. So Graeme versus Graeme. My spelling, not whatever you fucking think my name is.
Not like a graham cracker.
Nope. It's the British, Australian, Canadian way of spelling Graeme.
Oh, good for you!
And you can interact with me on Facebook because I have a flip phone. And that's facebook.com/groups/Blumpkin and Friends.
Thank you for not spelling it out.
I didn't want to confuse you. So,
I was waiting for it.
For Blumpkin and Friends, I'm saying bye!